Guys, we've got another major, super in-depth story on college football realignment. This time from Sports Illustrated, desirability rankings measuring each Power 5 school's conference value. In the midst of another realignment era, we break down all 69 schools to determine which would be coveted if conferences were starting over. So which school is worth the most value to a conference? This is based off a number of factors. It's a super in-depth article. Look it up if you want. There's a big graph. We're going to talk about it. But a few takeaways. If the SEC and Big Ten were to expand to 18 teams apiece and had their choice of all of the rest of the Power 5, the rankings would suggest the following moves. So this is who's most desirable if the Big Ten and the SEC want to expand. Notre Dame and Washington going to the Big Ten. We've heard rumors if Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten, they want Stanford as well due to the academics. We'll see. And then Clemson and Florida State to the SEC, and then if they want 20, the Big Ten adds Stanford with Notre Dame's approval and Oregon, while the SEC tacks on North Carolina and Miami. The Hurricanes would face stiff resistance from some in the SEC who are not in love with the U's current NIL. Well, it's the same philosophy as Texas A&M's though. So I mean, how really big difference is that? But yeah, Miami is completely out of control with their NIL recruiting. It is what it is. Also in the article, including future members, the Big Ten and SEC claim 13 of the top 14 spots. That's why they're making big bucks and on the cusp of making more. Notre Dame, a football independent and member of the ACC and most other sports, is the only school breaking up the Power 2 cartel at the top. Outside of Notre Dame, Washington is slightly ahead of Clemson for the highest rated school from outside the Big Ten and SEC. The Huskers have slid recently in football, but are respectable across the board. Clemson obviously has had superior football program, but lags in all other sports, which ultimately is kind of how they determine these rankings, apparently. So, guys, this is very interesting. I'm just going to put it up right now. You can see the overall most valuable team in college football. It should not be a surprise. It is Ohio State. Michigan is number 2, Notre Dame number 3, Texas at 4, and Georgia, the first SEC team, at number 5, also Florida at 6. Kind of surprised Wisconsin is that valued at number 7, mainly due to their stellar attendance. They've got good Oklahoma and USC being below Wisconsin is very surprising. And then Alabama at number 10. Yeah, Alabama, obviously the best football. But other than that, the basketball program isn't the best. The overall popularity isn't the best. I will say, when looking at the viewership metric, I don't know how they determined that exactly because, if you guys pay attention, Ohio State gets the best views in college football. It's not even close. And they have Ohio State at tied for second, and Oklahoma. There's no way Oklahoma gets better ratings than Ohio State in terms of TV. There's zero chance of that. So I don't know how that's factored in. I'm not saying Oklahoma doesn't draw well, but you can kind of see. So just going down the list, imagine if Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten. You've got the first team Big Ten, second team Big Ten, third team Big Ten, fourth team SEC, fifth team SEC, sixth team SEC, seventh team Big Ten, eighth team SEC, ninth team Big Ten. 10th team SEC, 11th team Big Ten, 12th team. I mean, it's never ending. It's never ending. And how about Washington at number 15? Washington is desirable. They're more desirable than Oregon. I think it's fairly certain to say that. And then looking at the bottom tier list, you guys can see the least desirable teams. It is Houston, who is part of that big, expansion to the Big 12 after they lost Texas and Oklahoma. Kansas at number 68, even with that robust, unbelievable basketball program. I thought Kansas's academics were better than that. I don't think people have been talking about Kansas joining the Big Ten. If they're seriously 68 out of 69 teams, they're lower than Oregon State. Guys, the two teams we talked about that might get screwed out of any super conference, Washington State, Oregon State, Arizona is low as well, but there's talks about Arizona possibly joining the Big 12, so we'll see if that ends up happening. But very interesting stuff overall, and definitely, you know, stuff we'll take into account. And guys, by the way, I'm looking for... So Oregon is 22nd. Oregon's actually tied with North Carolina. That's not a bad ranking. Yeah, so we'll see what happens to Oregon. It is looking more and more likely, though, that Washington might even be more desired, and Stanford are sitting at 17, and that's rumored. If the Big Ten does get Notre Dame, they would want to bring Stanford along with them in terms of that. So that's just who's the most desired teams. And then this is just a tweet that I found interesting. Best home records as underdogs since 2010. Ohio State is 2-0. I definitely remember the one game they were home underdogs to Michigan. That was like, you know, the revenge tour, that whole thing. They were like 3.5-point underdogs. They end up, you know, crushing Michigan. Notre Dame 6-3. Alabama is not on this list. I'm not sure Alabama has ever been a home underdog since 2010. They might have been the favorite in literally every game at home. That's how crazy it is. But this is an interesting list. Ohio State, just 2 games. They won them both. Notre Dame, 6-3. Liberty's barely been home underdogs. I guess it makes sense. You're in a bad conference. You're at home. You're not going to be underdogs in many games. LSU 7-6. A lot of those games probably Bama, Florida maybe. Just very interesting overall to look at that. I wonder what Clemson's record is as home. Clemson is on a crazy home winning streak. I don't know if you guys know that. They have like they've lost like 1 home game in the last 40 games or something. A lot of it's due to the watered-down ACC. You're not facing many tough opponents. But they've been kind of talking about maybe NC State can end that streak. But guys, I just wanted to show this. I'll show it one more time. The overall value each school brings to a conference. It just goes to show you how valuable the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be over some of these other programs. And in the article, it also does say the best thing for everyone in the Power 5 would be a continuation of the Power 5. A viable coast-to-coast college sports landscape would enhance the overall health of college football and everything else. So here's to hoping we see many more years of the ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12. Yeah, I mean, that was the hope, but the wheels start to go in motion when the SEC is already the best conference in college football by far, and then they snipe the 2 top teams from the Big 12, and then the Big 10 makes a response, and now we've got 2 conferences that are extremely imbalanced, which is putting other conferences in jeopardy of survival, especially the Pac-12. Right now, I think the ACC, due to their grant of rights deal through the year 2036, I think they're hanging on. The ACC is hanging on. The Big 12 is trying to expand by killing the Pac-12 and making the Pac-12 a sub-conference, and we could see a conference similar to that one. But guys, very interesting rankings overall. Ohio State #1. That's the best rivalry in college football. It's so funny. People say Alabama-Auburn is the... Are you kidding me? Alabama-Auburn is a dumpster fire. The best rivalry in college football, the 2 most powerful programs in college football, according to metrics, Ohio State and Michigan. It is what it is, guys. This is not a biased source. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's Notre Dame. These are the most powerful teams, and they're all Big Ten teams. That's why the Big Ten has a better media deal than the SEC. When they were going to renegotiate their media deal in 2023 or 2024, whenever it is, it would have blown the SECs out of the water, even without USC and UCLA. And people are like, how is that possible? The SEC is so much better than the Big Ten. Yeah, but the more powerful programs are in the Big Ten. That's just the reality of it. It is what it is, guys. But it's clear, #1 and #2, especially with Texas now. With Texas possibly being back, with Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, they're going to be a superpower, and they're headed to the SEC. So the SEC adds them. They add Oklahoma. Great storied tradition. You've already got Florida. You've already got Georgia. I'm surprised Georgia is ranked. Well, maybe not. No, Georgia's a big program. They are. You know, they've got a big stadium, really good attendance, really good fan base. But I guess, you know, it is surprising. They're the number one. I guess you just lose a lack of perspective with how crazy and how dominant Alabama's been. Like, it's crazy that Georgia and Florida bring more to a conference than Alabama, but it does make sense when you're talking about viewership, fan base, academics, basketball success, other sports, things like that. Michigan also is very successful in other sports. That's why they have a lot of value along with their academics, their major fan base, and things like that. But these are just the most valuable teams. Guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.